Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Welcome into Fogale's, the Fogale's football show. I'm here. I'm Spencer G from working with Fogale's, and a lot of fun to be able to, record some, newsworthy content on the NFL. And today's show will be some NFL, and then there also will be some college football news, but some big time. This is a big time quarterback discussion. We're going to talk about one of the highest prized free agents on the market, and that is Derek Carr. So we are going to discuss DC right now. Just give me a moment. And we are off, and we are running. All right, so DC, Derek Carr, 31 years old, has played his whole career in Oakland and in the Vegas desert. Had the John Gruden fiasco, had Henry Ruggs. Unfortunately, have to go to prison and, has had to overcome that. Del Rio also got fired. Amari Cooper got traded. So there's been a bunch of things with Derek Carr, but he also hasn't played, consistent and great football over his entire tenure. But I would say that, the past maybe 3 years, he's been like a solid quarterback. Now, he is 31. He is a pocket passer, going to be 32 years old. So I look at Carr, and I believe that he has like 3 to 4 like really good years in him. I know Stafford's kind of that age, but I think that Carr has done a better job with his body about not taking hits. All right, so we're going to preview the two kind of NFC South teams that it looks like Derek Carr is rumored to be courted by. So that's the Carolina Panthers. All right, so let's discuss Carolina and New Orleans and what spot we would pick. And then I have a definite answer at the end of this, but I'm going to present to you guys both cases. All right, so Carolina, they didn't have a great year under Matt Rule. They ended up firing him, and then with Steve Wilkes, they were competitive. Their defense is very young, and they have a lot of talent on the defensive line. So you may be thinking, what's the defensive line have to do with a quarterback? Well, if you're going to win and you're going to win at the highest level like Derek Carr wants to do, you're going to have a really competent defense. All right. So you got, I believe, probably the best offseason defensive coordinator hire in Ejiro. I mean, Ejiro kept Denver's defense rocking. Now, I did hear a decent, rebuttal to that, meaning like Denver's offense was so bad so that Denver's defense would not really have to face explosive offenses because you're trying not to F it up. When you're playing Russell Wilson and that team with Nathaniel Hackett, you were just trying to score like 20 points and you would win. So the defensive numbers could look better. I understand that argument, but Avero's still got, Patrick Surtain and still got those guys playing at a really decent level. He's a young coach. I think that he's very bright. I think he's a really good defensive coach. But you got Brian Burns, Derek Brown. So these are 2 first-rounders that are really good. J.C. Horn really showed out. Jeremy Chin, I believe from Southern Illinois. Shaq Thompson, Dante Jackson. All right. And then Yetur Matos from Penn State is a high second-round pick there. So you got Matos, Gross Matos, you got Derek Brown, and then you got Burns there on that D-line. And then you got J.C. Horn that could be a shutdown corner that's a top 10 pick. So I like the defense. Then you start to look at the offensive weapons. You got Terrace Marshall, who's kind of, hasn't really found his shot, but still at LSU was, an alpha tall wide receiver. And then I believe DJ Moore is a real talent. I believe DJ Moore can be an elite, like, one receiver. I believe that he can be a top 15 guy in the NFL, maybe a top 13 guy. Then you have Shi Smith in the slot, who really came on and made some plays for Baker and Sam Darnold. Shi can separate, was a really good, third down receiver at South Carolina, and kind of coming into his own. Now, unfortunately, Dante Jackson is a free agent. You don't have McCaffrey. Chuba Hubbard, did a decent job kind of filling in. He's a fast running back. Still, the Panthers, they probably want that number one running back because you want to be able to go play action. They're tight ends. You got Tommy Tremble, who's a Notre Dame guy, and then I think you got some vets behind him in Carolina as well. Tremble does have a decent skill set. So then you look at the staff in Carolina. You got Frank Reich, who was a very successful offensive coordinator for Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. With Phillip Rivers, he led a really good team, with Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis, and he tried to get the most out of Wentz, and he was a decent coach for Indy. Just didn't work out at the end. He's an okay coach, but a really good kind of offensive mind. He's also like a devout Christian, so Derek Carr is really going to connect with him that way when you think about Carr. You also get Deuce Staley, who's been an assistant coach for a very long time, was with the Eagles when they were rocking, and he also gets the most out of running backs and wide receivers. So Deuce Staley going to probably be an offensive coordinator in this league, going to really assist with play calling, probably going to be hired as an OC eventually in the NFL. Josh McCown, very highly thought of. Houston was really interested in him in a high-profile role the last couple of years. He's coached high school football. Josh McCown is a huge alluring part of this. Josh loved being in Carolina, loved being in Charlotte. Josh and I think Derek are going to hit it off. I think that's a tremendous, tremendous hire as a quarterbacks coach is Josh McCown. All right. And then you got Parks Frazier, and Parks Frazier known as very smart, very witty, and has a lot of potential. Now Parks Frazier thrown into a tough situation. Yeah, him and Jeff Saturday didn't rock the world last year in Indianapolis, but Parks is going to be helping out in Carolina. I think Carolina, you look at Charlotte, great place to live with the family. I really see Carolina as a heavy favorite. I know I haven't gotten to New Orleans just yet, but I think that Carolina is a heavy favorite. I believe that's why Derek wanted to be released and have the option of going where he would like to go. So then let's look at New Orleans as kind of another choice. You got Cam Jordan. You got a pretty dang good defense. The offensive line in New Orleans is better because you got Penning, you got Ryan Ramczyk. All right, so you have a good nucleus there. We have to see about Alvin Kamara. Now, Kamara's 27. He's dealing with some, issues outside of football. We're going to have to see how eligible Kamara is, what kind of situation's going to transpire there. Marcus Lattimore's a blue-chip guy, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, but you do have guys that are older like Marcus May, Bradley Roby, Honey Badger. That defense is getting older and older. Joe Woods comes from Cleveland. Dennis Allen's a decent defensive coach, but Pete Carmichael will be your offensive coordinator. Still, Dennis Allen doesn't have the job security of newly formed Frank Reich. I think that's a huge key in this instance. Michael Thomas is a free agent. A lot of guys. Marquez Callaway, he's kind of still, we have to see what he's going to be like. He could take that leap. Olave is very good. All right, some people can argue that Olave's ceiling is right up there and going to be better than DJ Moore. I would argue Olave's good, but he's a little more slight. I like DJ Moore kind of as that number one receiver, but Olave was already balling and playing pretty dang good football. So you are in a dome, which is a big key for you. Derek spent a lot of time in Houston, New Orleans, again, fun place, really nice people, really just energetic about New Orleans Saints football. A place that I think Derek would also really like is New Orleans, Louisiana. Just a really fun town, and, the people really care about football there. But it's just, going to New Orleans, it's special. When you're able to put a winner out there on the field. And I say that kind of being like an Atlanta Falcons guy. I just think that New Orleans, it has a rich football tradition with LSU and the Saints, where Carolina is still kind of trying to build that. They're an expansion franchise. But New Orleans is a fun place to live, and there's really nice areas of New Orleans to raise a family and everything. So You look at New Orleans, though, and the reason I'm going Carolina is I like Frank Reich. I like the offensive staff. I like having Deuce Staley, McCown there. The wide receivers, Terrace Marshall, and also Shi Smith. The D-line is young. The secondary has some stud players on it. So one issue could be not a lot of cap space. They're minus $9 million under the cap right now. And then they also need, a running back. I don't know if Chuba's going to be like the starting running back. And then also you have to see if Ike Ekwamu is going to develop into a star tackle as he was taken in the top 10. He did have some holdings, but listen, he was just a rookie. But is his lateral speed, is he going to be like that rock solid player where Ryan Ramczyk and Penning, I believe, like they even look like more solid football players. But again, Penning's a dead rookie too. So, that just depends on your preference. All right. So, but again, you have Marshall and Shi Smith. Who are you going to get for a wide receiver? How much cap space do you have? I think I'm leaning Carolina, but New Orleans isn't a terrible choice as well. You also look at this division. Tampa's not going to be very good, but I kind of look at the South right now, and I think it's an underrated good conference. I think Atlanta's going to be really good. They have like $55 million in cap space. They're going to hold on to Ritter, Algier. They got the running game going. They're a really competitive team with a really good rookie class coming back for its sophomore years. I think Carolina's going to be a very tough out. But then if Derek Carr goes to Carolina, I think it's very important for them because then with that 9th pick, they can trade back and try to get Bijan Robinson, or they can even look at like getting like another great cornerback like Christian Gonzalez or Joey Porter to mix with Dante Jackson and J.C. Horn. I mean, the defense could just be off the charts, or they can even look at Paris Johnson to even build their offensive line out, because I don't really see Frank Reich wanting to develop, an Anthony Richardson style. Will Levis is definitely not to the level right now of what Derek Carr would give you in terms of stability. Now, maybe Frank Reich is fed up with getting kind of those 30-year-old quarterbacks and trying to build that model, but come on, let's face it, Matt Ryan and Phillip Rivers are in their late 30s, and Derek Carr is still only 31, going to be 32, all right, and has stayed, knock on wood, generally healthy. All right, so again, Levis and Richardson have big arms, but again, those guys with this roster, they're not consistent. And with Tampa Bay being in an awful stretch of cap space, with beating out New Orleans for a quarterback, with Atlanta still with question marks about how consistent Atlanta can be, it's a huge battle in the NFC South, I believe, for Derek Carr. But I would lean Carolina.